What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Check out the podcast available on all podcasting platforms. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find the JT Sports Podcast. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. You can follow us on Instagram at JT Sports _ and on Twitter at JT Sports __. You really want to make sure that you give me a follow on Twitter, because within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to end up starting up some live Twitter spaces. And for those of you guys who end up disagreeing with something that I say about your team, instead of me and you going back and forth in the comment section, we can end up doing it on Twitter via those Twitter spaces. They're like giant group calls. So make sure that you go ahead, follow me on Twitter at JT Sports _ so you don't miss when I end up starting up those live Twitter spaces. On this episode of the podcast, I'm going to be talking to you guys about why I feel a little bit sorry for Raiders fans going into this season, why rookie wide receiver Dell will be a stud for the Houston Texans, and why I believe Justin Fields will improve for the Chicago Bears this upcoming season. I feel really bad for all of you Raiders fans out there, because you guys are one of the most dedicated fan bases in the NFL. You guys pour your hard-earned cash and money into this team, buying tickets to go to the games, paying all that money for jerseys and merchandise, just for this front office to slap you guys in the face year after year by making dumb decisions in the first round. Outside of Josh Jacobs, the only thing that the Raiders know how to draft in the first round are bust and future convicts. Not just that, but after the end of last season, right? They came out and said that Derek Carr wasn't good enough. So they get rid of Derek Carr, and you may be thinking to yourself, once they get rid of Derek Carr, that they're going to end up upgrading at quarterback. You're probably thinking you're going to trade up for the number 1 overall pick and get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson. But instead, you end up going from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo. How is Jimmy Garoppolo an upgrade from Derek Carr? At best, going from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo is a lateral move. And many of you Raiders fans going into this season are more excited about the potential of being able to draft Caleb Williams or Drake May than you are about watching the Las Vegas Raiders this upcoming season. And I don't blame you. Anytime you're going into the year with Jimmy, fragile luggage, fragile cargo, Mr. Handle with Care Garoppolo, I probably wouldn't have too much optimism myself. And when you look at Josh McDaniels, I told you guys last year, and I'm going to tell you guys again, this guy is not head coach material. Some coaches are just meant to be good coordinators, and they don't make good head coaches. And Josh McDaniels is the prime example of that. And you got to ask yourself, is this team really equipped to compete for anything worthwhile this season? I mean, let's just be honest. Once the playoffs rolls around, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be in two places. Either on the couch watching it from their home, or they're going to be playing in their vacation spot in Cancun, Dubai, LA, wherever people go after the season ends for their vacation. Because the Las Vegas Raiders do not have a good team. You look at what they did in free agency. Their best free agent signing was cornerback Duke Shelley. And then they bring in another cornerback in David Long. Like, imagine this. The Miami Dolphins gave the LA Rams a 3rd round pick and a tight end named Hunter Long for Jalen Ramsey, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. And back in 2019, when Jalen Ramsey demanded a trade out of Jacksonville, he begged to be traded to the Raiders. And the Raiders did attempt to trade for him, but they just weren't willing to dish out the necessary compensation that Jacksonville wanted in exchange for Ramsey. And then this offseason, Jalen Ramsey is available again. And instead of improving your secondary, you decide to do the bare minimum And that's all this organization does year after year, the bare minimum. Like, are you guys really excited about Jimmy Garoppolo being your starting quarterback this year? Are you really excited about Aiden O'Connell potentially being your franchise quarterback of the future? Like, if you are a Raiders fan, please answer this question honestly. Why do you continue to support this team that does bare minimum? Why do you continue to pour money into a franchise that makes dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision? Josh McDaniels should never have been hired as the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. You know who should have been the head coach for Las Vegas right now? Rich Bisaccia. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name, but I found it funny how he was the only head coach this past decade outside of Jack Del Rio to take the Raiders to the playoffs. And remind you, this guy was an interim head coach. And yeah, you say, you know what? We don't think you're good enough to be our head coach. We're just going to hire Josh McDaniels, somebody who is proven to not be a good head coach, who has a losing record as a head coach, and we're just going to hire him. It's no surprise that the Raiders season went the way that it did last year. And this year, I don't see nothing changing. You really think that this roster is going to be able to go toe-to-toe with some of the best teams in the NFL? Let's be for real. You guys signed linebacker Robert Spillane. Robert Spillane, dog. He was a backup linebacker for my Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's projected to be a starter for you guys. You guys really think that Robert Spillane is going to improve your defense? I mean, when is the last time the Raiders had a good defense? I've been on this earth for 21 years. I've been watching the NFL for 12 out of 21 of those years, and I have yet to see the Raiders put a halfway decent defense on the field. I mean, how is this defense going to be able to slow down Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and hell, even the Broncos with Sean Payton, one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of this game? And yet, this defense just wants to go ahead and think that they made some okay additions by bringing in David Long and Robert Spillane. Now, I'm not going to trip on signing Duke Shelley because Duke Shelley was really good last season. All right? But outside of him, the Raiders didn't really make any significant free agency signings that make them a better team this season compared to what they were last year. This team is headed in a direction that I think is more leaning towards rebuild than it is contender. And I came across a really interesting article. Devontae Adams did an interview with The Ringer, and he had a really interesting quote. He said, the front office thinks this is the best bet for us right now to put us in a position to be urgent. We don't see eye to eye on what we think is best for us right now. I agree with you, Devontae Adams. You don't see eye to eye with what the Raiders are doing right now, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Raiders fans share the same feelings. Because what the hell are they doing? Like, truthfully, do you really think that Jimmy Garoppolo in the AFC, home to the majority of the best NFL quarterbacks, is going to be able to guide you to the postseason? This was your upgrade from Derek Carr? I mean, what are they doing? Are they even trying to win? Like, why do you guys support this team? I honestly want to know, why do you guys continue to pour in money that you spent your hard-earned time, blood, sweat, and tears to earn into this team that continues to BS you every single year? What the Raiders did this offseason was a slap in the face to your fan base. Like, you guys should be outside of the Las Vegas Raiders facilities right now, protesting, begging for this team to do more. Because all they do is the bare minimum, and what they've done this offseason is a great example of that. They could even successfully trade for the number 1 overall pick. They said that the Chicago Bears were asking for too much for the number 1 overall pick. So what the Bears were asking for was too much for you to go ahead and get your franchise quarterback? You could have had Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Anthony Richardson, but instead you say, you know what, we're good with Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy who you don't even know is going to be able to make it a third through the season fully healthy. I mean, what the Raiders are doing right now makes no sense. This team is unequipped to compete in the AFC. Like, why trade for Devontae Adams if you don't plan on building a championship caliber football team? They do know that Devontae Adams is 30 years old, right? If the Raiders aren't trying to win anything, why would you even try to trade for him? So after this season, I'm really interested in seeing what's going to be Devontae Adams' future with the Raiders organization if they don't make it to the playoffs this year. And I promise you, this team won't make it to the playoffs. For all of you Raiders fans that are trying to come in and trying to find a little bit of hope and a little bit of reason to be optimistic about this team, just stop it, because all you're going to do is make yourself sound foolish and you're going to give yourself a headache, because there is nothing to be excited about when it comes to Las Vegas Raiders football. I mean, Josh McDaniels is a crappy coach. Dave Ziegler hasn't proved to be a good general manager. Like, why are y'all trying to get excited about this team? The small percentage of Raiders fans out there who are trying to say, man, we got a chance if everything goes right to win 10, 12 games. No, the hell you don't. The only thing you guys are going to be competing for is the opportunity to get Caleb Williams or Drake May in next year's draft, and maybe who's going to end up being the first to hop on the flight to Cancun, Dubai, Los Angeles, Cuba, wherever people go to vacation after the NFL season is over. I really feel really bad for you Las Vegas Raiders fans out there, because you guys deserve so much better than what you guys are getting right now. I mean, did they even try to improve the offensive line? Honestly, like, this offensive line was crap last year. And instead, they continued to bring back most of the guys who started last year. They may switch a couple of guys' positions around, but this offensive line is not going to be better than what it was last season. Like, this team is unequipped to compete in the AFC. And not just is this team not equipped to compete in this conference, but they're not even equipped to even be able to win more games than what they did last year. Like, let's be honest. How many games do you think the Las Vegas Raiders are realistically going to win this year? I say at least 5 or 6. I can't see this team winning any more than 6 games. They were lucky to win the amount of games they won last year. You have to thank the New England Patriots for giving you that gimme. I don't know what the hell they had going on at the end of that game, but this team is headed nowhere. And most of the fan base pretty much knows that, but you have a small percent that thinks that the Raiders could shock the world. The Raiders aren't shocking the world. Not with Jimmy Garoppolo, not with Josh McDaniels, and not with what they've done this offseason. If you're a Raiders fan, you should be really disappointed. You should be outside of their offices, outside of their headquarters, protesting, because this team literally just spit in your face. You put all your money into supporting this organization, and they continue to put a BS product, a bare minimum team, every single year. This team is not equipped to compete for a championship. This team is not equipped to even be able to compete for the last remaining spot in the AFC wildcard. Do you think they can get the 7th seed in the AFC this year? I don't think they can. I feel really bad for all of you Raiders fans out there. This team just acts like they don't care. It's been like that for damn near 2 decades. Let's talk about something positive, right? Tank Dell, I think, is going to be a stud for the Houston Texans. This is one of my favorite players in the NFL right now, even though he hasn't taken a single NFL snap. You want to know why? Because he's a Florida boy. And you guys already know what those Florida boys do when they get to the league. They produce. Now, he was drafted in the 3rd round, coming out of the University of Houston, and word on the street is that him and CJ Stroud kind of hit it off at the NFL Combine. So when NFL Draft came around and Houston took CJ Stroud 2nd overall, CJ Stroud made some phone calls and he pulled some strings. He said, hey, man, make sure you get my boy Tank Dell down to Houston. So the 3rd round rolls around and the Texans end up taking my guy Tank Dell. Now, Don't let his size fool you. All right, he's 5'8", 165 pounds, but this guy is a real football player. Tank Dell is him. This guy, in my opinion, was the best route runner coming out of this past year's draft. Did you not see what he was doing at the Senior Bowl? I mean, this dude was getting busy. Nobody could guard this guy in the one-on-one individuals that they were doing at the Senior Bowl. And I know that one-on-ones pretty much favor the wide receivers, the cornerbacks and DBs most of the times to put in unfavorable situations in one-on-one drills. But Tank Dell's route running is something serious. Not just that, but this guy has elite quickness, shiftiness. If he gets the ball into his hands in the open field, you better watch out. And not just that, but he creates insane separation on all three levels. He's really good when it comes to running deep routes downfield. He can run the intermediate, the medium, the short range routes. He can do it all in this offense. You already know that the offensive coordinator that you have is going to be implementing that Kyle Shanahan West Coast style offense. And it's really important when you have an offense like this that's predicated on quick passes, getting the ball out fast, running the football, that you have elite route runners, and that's what Tank Dell is. And some of you guys are going to say, can you just chill out? Can we wait to see this guy play an NFL game? Bruh, you don't need to see a guy play an NFL game to know if he's an elite route runner or not. Have you not seen Tank Dell play? This dude's route running is second to none. You look at what he can do with CJ Stroud in this offense. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tank Dell have 1,000 yards right out the gate as a rookie if he ends up getting the starting nod in the slot. I think right now, on their current depth chart, Robert Woods is ahead of him, and Robert Woods is getting up there in age. He's slowing down. So hopefully, Robert Woods doesn't take away from Tank Dell's shine, and Tank Dell gets some opportunities to show what he can do. And not just is he a good slot receiver, but he also is an elite punt returner and kick returner. So you're getting somebody who can have a big impact for you this year on the special team side of the football. I'm really excited to see what Tank Dell does his first season for the Houston Texans. Like, my comp for Tank Dell coming out was Wes Welker. And that may be some high praise because Wes Welker is probably the greatest slot receiver to ever play the game of football. But I believe that Tank Dell is that good. And the reason why I'm so confident that this guy's going to work out is because of how good of a route runner he is. When you look at every wide receiver that's been successful in the NFL, you know what they all have in common? They all are elite route runners. Most of them. Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. I can go on and on and on. I know not every wide receiver is a great route runner. You have guys like Tyreek Hill that are able to win with speed. Guys like DK Metcalf that are able to win with physicality. But I think that route running is one of the most important traits when it comes to trying to figure out how well a wide receiver is going to translate at the NFL level. And you look at Tank Dell, this dude's route running is insane. And even CJ Stroud said it. When he was talking about it, he was like, I really like your route run. I love how you run routes. Like, this dude, Tank Dell, is going to do some serious work for the Houston Texans. Now, he may not have a outstanding rookie season. He may not get a lot of opportunities this year because he has Robert Woods in front of him. But I feel within the next 2 to 3 years, Tank Dell is going to be in the conversation for being the best slot receiver in the NFL. Last season at Houston, he had 109 receptions. He had 1,398 receiving yards and 17 total touchdowns. And remind you that this guy is 5'8", 165 pounds. Like, he's like a mixture of Wes Welker and Devontae Smith. And the crazy thing about it is that if Tank Dell was like an inch taller, he was 5'9", or maybe 2 inches taller, he was 5'10", this guy probably could play outside receiver. He's that good. This guy has an amazing release package. It's really hard to jam this guy on the line of scrimmage. Even if you put a big physical corner on him, it's not going to be easy just to stop this guy at the line just because of how fast and how quick he's able to get in and out of his routes and in and out of his breaks. as long as he can stay healthy and he can add a little bit more meat on his frame, Tank Dell is going to be a stud for the Houston Texans. Like, I'm really effed up about Tank Dell. I probably got to go ahead and cop me a Tank Dell jersey. Just keeping it 100 with you guys. Like, I love Tank Dell, man. And I may be a little bit biased, just a tad bit biased. But I think that Tank Dell with CJ Stroud is going to be a really good quarterback wide receiver duo for the next years to come. And the Houston Texans overall, I think they're a little bit underrated. This team is not that bad. I think that the Houston Texans, year one under the D'Amico Ryans, possibly could win 7, maybe 8 games. The offensive line, I think, is coming along pretty well. I think with the addition of Tank Dell, you also got Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State. This offense should be able to cook. And this defense, we already know that the Texans are going to have an elite defense with D'Amico Ryans being a defensive-minded coach, coupled with the elite young talent that they have on that side of the ball. But I think that Tank Dell, man, this dude is going to be an absolute star for the Houston Texans. And if you are a Texans fan, you should be really excited about what Tank Dell brings to your offense. Elite route running, creates a lot of separation on his routes. He's electric with the ball in his hands, and he can return punts and kickoffs for you. I'm really excited for what Tank Dell is going to bring to the Houston Texans organization for the next years to come. I want to talk about why Justin Fields will improve in 2023. Now, you guys already know that Justin Fields is one of my favorite players in the league. And we don't call him Justin Fields over here. We call him Sir Timothy Fields, because last year Justin Fields was him. Justin Fields should have been a Pro Bowler last year. And I get really irritated when you got all of the Twitter coaches out there and the Twitter GMs out there who say Justin Fields is terrible. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He can't throw. All he knows how to do is run the football. Like, how good was Justin Fields supposed to throw the football last year when he was throwing to Equinemius St. Brown, Dante Pettis, and the can of Pringles? They literally had one of the worst receiving cores in the whole entire NFL last year. They traded for N'Keal Harry, dog. N'Keal Harry and Chase Claypool. And what did any of those guys do? Absolutely nothing. So how was Justin Fields supposed to throw the ball at an efficient level when he's throwing to the worst receiving core in the NFL? His two best receivers in the passing game last year were Darnell Mooney, who got injured and missed the remainder of the season late in the year, and tight end Cole Kmet, who led the Bears in receiving yards last year. You're telling me you were expecting Justin Fields to light it up in the passing numbers, in the passing department, with what he was throwing to last year? I think you're being a little bit unfair. And how many of you guys actually watched the Chicago Bears? Like, be honest, how many of you guys actually watched the Chicago Bears unless you were a Bears fan? You really telling me that on your Sunday afternoons, you took the time to watch the team who had the worst record in the NFL, one of the worst records in the NFL? I'm just asking the question. I'm waiting for you guys to give me an answer. You really telling me, unless you were a Bears fan, that you watched every single game that Justin Fields played, every single snap, despite the fact that the Bears had one of the worst records in the NFL? Now, you may be asking, JT, you're asking us that question, but did you watch every single game that Chicago Bears played? Yes, I did. You want to know why? Because Justin Fields was my starting quarterback on all of my fantasy football squads. Now, it took him a while to get going. He started going crazy. Did you not see the run that he had against the Philadelphia Eagles? He damn near broke his neck. He broke out of a sack, and he was off to the races. Justin Fields, for him to have the season that he had last year, was really impressive, given the fact that he was tied for being the most sacked quarterback in the NFL with Russell Wilson. He got sacked 55 times last season. So he has one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, one of the worst receiving cores in the NFL, and yet people expected Justin Fields to be lighting the world on fire, throwing the football. How the hell are you supposed to throw the football at a high level if you got a terrible offensive line and a terrible group of wide receivers? Like, Make it make sense to me. That's like trying to say 1 + 1 = 3 when it doesn't. It equals 2. And then here's something that a lot of people like to leave out. The fact that he had to learn a new system really early into his tenure as a starting quarterback for Chicago. Everybody knows that the key to a young quarterback being successful in the NFL is stability. And yet Justin Fields was learning a new system already early into his career. Of course, there were going to be some growing pains. Now, you can say, well, JT, Trevor Lawrence was learning a new system. That's different. He had Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning coach, somebody who actually knows what he's doing. And nobody can be any worse than what Urban Meyer was. That's who was coaching Trevor Lawrence his rookie season. So, of course, Trevor Lawrence was going to improve, but most quarterbacks, when they end up having to deal with changes on their coaching staff, such as a new head coach or a new OC, and they have to learn a new system, they oftentimes struggle. Look at Mac Jones. Mac Jones had Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. This dude used to be a defensive coordinator. This dude never called plays on offense until last season, and we saw how that went. Look at Marcus Mariota. Do you know how many offensive coordinators that Marcus Mariota went through when he first got drafted by the Tennessee Titans? The dude had a new offensive coordinator damn near every season. Of course, he was going to end up following down the path of being a bust. You got to have stability. You have to have continuity if you want your young quarterback to be successful. Now, this season, Justin Fields goes in to year 2 under Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy's system. So he should be way more comfortable in this offense this year. And Luke Getsy came out and actually said that Justin Fields has took tremendous strides this offseason when it comes to his improvement and his development as a quarterback. In my opinion, Justin Fields should have made the Pro Bowl last year. We're putting guys like Derek Carr and Tyler Huntley in the Pro Bowl, but we're not going to put Justin Timothy Fields in the Pro Bowl? Like, what the hell are we doing? Anybody who watched the Chicago Bears play last season knew that Justin Fields was pretty much the only weapon that the Bears had in their offense outside of Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery. I mean, oh, JT, the Bears didn't throw the football all that often. Well, duh. I mean, would you want to be airing the football out 40 times, 30 times a game with guys like Dante Pettis, N'Keal Harry, and the can of Pringles at wide receiver for you? I want to be throwing the football neither. It's not that I don't think the Bears didn't trust Justin Fields. I just think that they didn't trust the terrible offensive line that he had blocking in front of him and the awful group of wide receivers that he was throwing the football to. Like, if you were Justin Fields, would you want to be throwing the football 30, 40 times a game, throwing to the wide receivers that he was throwing to? I don't think so, man. Like, this season, I'm expecting Justin Fields to take tremendous leaps. You bring in DJ Moore. Yeah, you had to give up the number 1 overall pick and able to obtain them, but hey, you got a proven wide receiver. You got a proven number 1. DJ Moore has been probably the NFL's most underrated wide receiver for the last 3 years, and this guy was cooking with multiple different quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater. So if he can cook with all of the quarterbacks that he had to work with in Carolina, I'm pretty sure he's going to do pretty fine with Justin Fields as his quarterback. And Justin Fields is most definitely going to benefit from having a true number 1 wide receiver, something that he didn't have last season. And you can say Darnell Mooney, but Darnell Mooney at best is a good number 2. Darnell Mooney is not a true number 1 wide receiver. He can be a number 1 at times if, DJ Moore gets injured for a couple of games. You need Darnell Mooney to step up for a game or two. But as far as Darnell Mooney being your wide receiver 1 for the whole entire season, I don't really think you're going to get wide receiver 1 production out of Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is more of a Robin than he is a Batman. The Batman is DJ Moore. Darnell Mooney is going to be Robin. And then whoever the hell you decide to throw into the slot, whether that be Velus Jones, Chase Claypool, whoever, they're going to benefit from the addition of having DJ Moore because defenses are going to have to key in on him. And now Justin Fields is actually going to have a legitimate wide receiver to throw the football to. Plus, he's going to have Cole Kmet, who had a really good season last year, although it took him until the second half of the season to really get going. I like what the Chicago Bears have for Justin Fields to throw the football to this season. The offensive line, I don't really think it's going to be too great, but it definitely should be better than what it was last year. I don't think you can get any worse than what you had last year. Like, last year was the bottom of the barrel. He got sacked 55 damn times. You bring in Darnell Wright, who is my number one ranked offensive tackle coming out of this past year's draft class from Tennessee. This offensive line for the Chicago Bears, it worries me, but I do have confidence that it's going to be a lot better this season than what it was last year. And Justin Fields, man, don't be surprised if you end up seeing Justin Fields putting up MVP caliber numbers similar to what Jalen Hurts did last season with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I don't think he's going to have as good as a season as what Jalen Hurts had in 2022, because Jalen Hurts had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. He had arguably the best receiver duo in the NFL, Devontae Smith and Buff Batman. And he had an incredible coaching staff. Justin Fields doesn't really have near as much as what Jalen Hurts had to work with. But you look at what he did when he decided to run the football. He had over 1,000 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. Like, this dude at times was a handful for teams to stop. Like, when Justin Fields got going and he was doing it all, throwing the football and running the football with his dual threat ability, he was a headache for defensive coordinators to stop. Like, ask Dan Campbell how hard it was to game plan for Justin Fields. Justin Fields ran all over the lines one time they played. I mean, the Bears only won 3 games last season. And Justin Fields was a big reason why they won those 3 games. If it wasn't for Justin Fields last season starting at quarterback, the Chicago Bears probably would have went 1-16, maybe 0-17. Justin Fields is going to improve this season. Like, I'm so tired of my guy, Sir Timothy Fields, getting so much hate and not enough people actually trying to take what Justin Fields had to work with into context. The dude was throwing to a man named Byron Pringle. Dante Pettis, like, what the hell has Dante Pettis done in the NFL? N'Keal Harry, this dude is a bust. And this is who Justin Fields was throwing to last season, but yet we want to try to say Justin Fields can't throw. If you're going to judge a quarterback, at least judge them when they have a legitimate supporting cast around them. And he has that this season. So we're going to see what Justin Fields is made of this year with a better group of receivers to throw the football to because of the addition of DJ Moore and with a better offensive line. We're going to see how effective Justin Fields is going to be year 2 in Luke Getsy's system. I expect Justin Fields to take tremendous steps this season. I really get annoyed when you have all of the Twitter GMs looking and trying to judge Justin Fields based off stats, but yet nobody wants to take into context who the hell he was throwing the football to and how bad his offensive line was. How can any quarterback light it up with what Justin Fields had to work with last year? And I'm not giving you excuses. I'm giving you legitimate reasons, people. Legitimate reasons for why Justin Fields had the season that he had last year. He wasn't even that bad. Like, y'all try to make it seem like the dude was a bum. You try to make it seem like he was Mitch Trubisky or Jamarcus Russell. Put some more respect on Justin Timothy Fields. Watch Justin Timothy Fields light it up this year, and I will be drafting him and starting him once again for a second straight season on all of my fantasy football squads. Justin Fields is a beast, and y'all are about to see it, because I have a hard time believing that the majority of the world that's criticizing Justin Fields watched every single game of Chicago Bears football. The same franchise had the number 1 overall pick last year. They had it for a reason. It wasn't by luck. You just don't suck that bad and get the number 1 pick for no reason without being legitimately terrible. And without Justin Fields, the Bears would have been a lot worse last year. Justin Fields is going to improve this season. Mark my words. And this is something that I'm willing to die on the hill about. I'm willing to put some money on it too. Now, I'm not willing to say Justin Fields is going to have an MVP caliber season or anything like that, but he definitely has the potential to. But I doubt that Justin Fields is going to end up being a bum or having a terrible season this year. I believe that Justin Fields is the answer at quarterback for the Chicago Bears. And I can't wait for this season to start. Like, you guys don't know how upset I get when I see people criticizing Justin Fields and nobody ever seems to talk about what the hell he was throwing to. I never hear anybody on ESPN when they were talking about why the Chicago Bears should think about drafting Bryce Young or CJ Stroud and trading away Justin Fields. I didn't hear anybody talking about him having one of the worst receiving corps in the NFL, him being tied for the most sacked quarterback in the league. Like, it just seems like people just wanted to force out Justin Fields just cause. Like, damn, like, some people didn't even know that Darnell Mooney didn't play the whole season. The dude got injured late into the year. He was throwing to N'Keal Harry, Kendall Pringles, and Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis and N'Keal Harry were two of the wide receivers that Justin Fields was throwing to. Like, I just can't get up. You can't make this up, man. Like, you really can't make this up. Like, people really are just going to leave out that Justin Fields was throwing to one of the worst receiving corps in the NFL and played behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and yet people expected this dude to light it up? This is it for this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, comment if you're watching on YouTube, rate us 5 stars. If you like this episode, share it on all of your social media pages with your friends, family members, and acquaintances. And I'll see you guys shortly with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.